So ihr Lieben, herzlich willkommen bei Jens von Minga Gaming. Ich grüße euch recht herzlich auf meinem Sports Gaming Channel. Heute ein bisschen überraschend von mir das zweite Video, aber jetzt hier auch eine spontane Geschichte, denn soeben hat Matchpoint Tennis Championships ein neues Gameplay-Video rausgebracht in Kombination mit einem, ich sag jetzt mal, Interview mit den Entwicklern, mit dem Publisher, mit Leuten, die dafür verschiedene Sachen zuständig sind. Und ich möchte euch bitten, wer was für Sportspiele übrig hat, wer speziell was für Tennisspiele übrig hat, schaut euch dieses Video, was ich euch im Anschluss an meine Anmoderation hier reingeschnitten habe in mein Video, schaut es euch ganz an. Es ist richtig interessant und ich möchte an der Stelle mal sagen, nach meiner persönlichen Einschätzung, ich habe das Video mal auf mich wirken lassen. Ich möchte jetzt an der Stelle hier auch nicht zu euphorisch werden, aber wir haben hier endlich mal wieder ein Tennisspiel mit Potenzial für einen Titel, der auf der Ebene eines realistischen Sportspiels durchaus ein richtig gutes Spiel werden kann. Wer auf jeden Fall noch mal was wissen möchte, welche Lizenzen das Spiel hat und so weiter und so fort, der kann mal in meine Playlist reinschauen. Die werde ich euch hier oben am Ende von dem Video verlinken. Dort sind alle Videos, die ich bislang zu diesem Titel auf dem Kanal veröffentlicht habe, für euch zu finden. Könnt ihr euch mal ein bisschen durchschmökern. Wer da mal ein bisschen reinschauen möchte, wird dort auch ein paar interessante Sachen finden. Ansonsten noch mein Hinweis, wir sind auf Twitch, auch auf Instagram und Twitter. All diese Social Media Links sind unter dem Video für euch verteilt und könnt ihr auch gerne mal reinschauen und uns auch gerne ein Abo da lassen, würde mich auf jeden Fall freuen. Wie gesagt, schaut euch das Video mal ganz an, das ist richtig interessant und ich habe das Gefühl, das ist das beste Tennisspiel für Konsolen, zumindest in den letzten Jahren, werden kann. AO Tennis habe ich gespielt, den zweiten Teil auch. Tennis World Tour 1 und 2 habe ich gespielt. Zum zweiten Teil gibt es bei mir ja ein Let's Play mit über 40 Folgen. Hat auch relativ viel Spaß gemacht, aber ich habe das Gefühl, dass dieses Spiel hier ein richtig gutes Spiel im Bereich Tennis werden könnte und nach Veröffentlichung werde ich auf jeden Fall ein Let's Play mit dem Karrieremodus zeigen. Das stand auch vor dem Video schon fest und bestärkt mich jetzt darin. Jetzt aber schaut euch das Video an, haut eure Kommentare rein, lasst ein Abo und einen Daumen auf jeden Fall da und dann wünsche ich euch viel Spaß damit und danke für eine schöne Diskussion. Wünsche mir hier auf jeden Fall Feedback von euch und dann bis zum nächsten Mal. Ciao und Servus, euer Jens von Minga Gaming.
Yeah, I'm very excited to chat with two guys from the developer Taurus, but yeah, just introduce yourselves.
G'day, I'm Dave Mack and I'm the game designer on Matchpoint Championship Tennis.
My name is Kevin McIntosh and I'm the producer on Matchpoint.
Yeah, thanks guys. First question, why did you decide to create a tennis game and how did you approach it?
We wanted to make a tennis game. We've always wanted to make a tennis game. We've made sports games for many years, going back to NBA Jam, I think, in the early days of Taurus. And we worked on rugby and NFL and things like that. But tennis is always one of those sports that we were pretty passionate about. We wanted to sink our teeth into. And fortunately, with our partners at Calypso, we've managed to find the right group together to be able to work on this.
Okay, what I like to know is the motion capture. What were the difficulties of using this technique and what was the most fun?
Definitely did some experimentation with a few different technologies and we had some mixed results from that. And it wasn't until we sort of teamed up with our friends here in Melbourne called Track Lab, who used the XN suit, and we were able to get out on the court. And once that frees you up away from any kind of studio or any wires hanging off the back of the player can actually just play natural tennis. And that's what makes the biggest difference, I think. That's what we had a lot of fun with, is actually just getting out there in the suit and playing real tennis with the tennis ball on a tennis court. And that's the only way that you can really get the right, most accurate motion capture.
Yeah, that's right. Like, we can direct the motion until the cows come home, but like, we're not professional tennis players. So the best way for us to approach it is to get professional tennis players playing tennis as naturally as possible. The actor coach Marcel was actually fantastic for this because while we're trying to tell him hey, do this, do this. He's telling us, a tennis player would never do that. They would do it like this or like that. So, Marcel really helped us to flesh out our animation list and figure out the right motions for the right buttons.
Yeah, sounds good. But why is MATCHPOINT different from other tennis games?
Because it has a deeper focus on rally tactics, just moment-to-moment rally tactics. So in the game, the ball goes one-to-one where you're aiming. So you're not being penalized for how you hit the ball. You're just hitting the ball, which frees up your mind to be able to focus more on real tennis, which is focusing on what your opponent's doing, where they're going, what they're planning on doing next, how you're going to approach 3 shots from now. That's a deeper kind of rally tactics that we're talking about.
Yeah, that's good. You kind of summed it up by saying that you actually want to play the game of tennis rather than playing against the UI, for example. So usually if you have markers on the ground, to look at, that's where your focus becomes. And then all you're doing is following the markers and following the UI that's in the game, rather than actually thinking about the strategy of hitting it wide, hitting it short, hitting it long, which is what we're trying to capture in MATCHPOINT. And I think we've done a great job. It's just the amount of depth to it. We've got full career mode. We've got a bunch of licensed players that are on board with this. We have strengths and weaknesses that are in the game that you can expose against every other AI opponent that's out there. You go through a huge range of tournaments, stadiums, there's training games, tutorial in there. Of course, there's online multiplayer and a ranked online multiplayer system as well. So there's an amazing amount of depth to the game.
I've heard you had a former world #1 coach assisting you for tactical gameplay. How did that help?
Yeah, we're very fortunate to spend some time with Coach Owen Dannenberg. He coached Marcelo Rios and in the 90s, took him to world #1. And so Owen's obviously evolved with the game over many years. He's got the knowledge that's come through from the 90s, and he was able to sort of talk to us about how the game's evolved and changed and what it was like and where it's going right now. So we went into a lot of details about strings, about the type of shoes, court, but definitely a lot to do with the positioning on the court, the mindset of the player, the mental challenge that goes into the game, sort of how to position yourself, how to prepare yourself. And the great thing about that, like any great story, there's a lot of that underlying knowledge that goes into that game, even if it's not immediately evident. You're not specifically picking the strings in the game, for example, but the specific physics that we've worked on for the different court surfaces and the different AI has really come through.
You mentioned in the beginning that there were a lot of team members that actually play tennis in real life. I can imagine that also helped a lot during the development.
All right, let me show you this. All right, this is one of my first rackets from growing up, complete with red electrical tape where the grip ran out, and I managed to put another grip back on there. I wore this thing out against the wall. It's got a couple of dents in it because I probably hit some of those frustration moments as well. You can't help that. But I whacked the tennis ball against the wall maybe 100,000 times, playing Wimbledon in my head when I was younger. So coming from such a long line of experience and actually having the same kind of passion coming from Calypso as well means that we can sit there and we can talk about the players in the 80s and the players in the 90s and the players in, for the last 20 years and be able to say, we'll make it a little bit more like Mats Wilander or Edberg or Pete Sampras, and we can make those references and understand what we're talking about. So it really drives a passion into the game, and I think you'll definitely experience that.
Yeah, it makes such a huge difference. We're making a tennis game and we're huge tennis fans. This is a tennis game made by tennis fans for tennis fans. So early into development, we reached out to some local tennis clubs just to find out if they were interested in what we were doing. Maybe they could offer us some kind of support or some space or some people that we could throw into a motion capture suit. And we got some overwhelming support back from them. So people's very interested in what we're doing. I kept hearing from these clubs that tennis was kind of on its way back up. A lot more people are picking it up, and feeling inspired. I can only hope that our game kind of does the same thing, encourages people to get out there and play it, because it's a fantastic sport. We love it, and get out there and play.